Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to another episode on the Speak Sense podcast with me, Osama Musa, and a very special guest who we had on the Speak Sense podcast right at the beginning. And we have the privilege of bringing him back on a year and a half later, where we're going to learn a lot about what's happened in the last 18 months and his journey. And there's a lot to discuss. So if you can help me give a warm welcome to our dear brother and guest, Mounir, the modern Muslim man. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, jazakallah khair, man. Appreciate you as always. The journey began here, and I have a lot of credit to give you for what has now become the modern Muslim man routine, because you put the idea in my head that what if you went to Fajr at the masjid and then went to the gym? And I was like, that's genius. I'm going to do that as soon as I moved back to San Diego, because we did our first podcast when I was living in LA. Literally went to that routine, never went back. There's a couple screw ups in the summer when, Fajr was late Fajr was early and Isha was late. But every time that happens, man, every time I don't have that routine, my day is not nearly as good as when it is. So jazakallah khair for that. And that has helped hundreds of Muslim brothers since you and I first met. So may Allah reward you for all of their success. Ameen.
Ameen, Ya Rab. Ameen. And it's an absolute privilege to have you here with us after all these months. You've been an amazing journey. Just to give guys insight. So the modern Muslim man started when me and Mounir last spoke. His social media has now grown to over 120,000 followers. Alhamdulillah, he's impacted many, many Muslim lives. I'd like to think that we also had a helping hand in helping you serve the Muslim community, because we started way back before that was even an idea. So mashallah, jazakallah khair, for serving the community. And I want to ask you, bro, so mashallah, obviously, I'm a big fan and big follower, and I've been your follower for a long, long time. I've seen your journey from fat to fit to fat to fit. Obviously, you've been through that journey a couple of times. So talk to us about how, mashallah, you've managed to be someone who, as a coach, as a fitness coach, has managed to gain weight and then lose it while still maintaining muscle. So what was that like, and why did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first time that I got fat as a fitness coach was in 2018, actually. And this, I'll go through like the previous times briefly, because 2018 was easy to lose the weight because I was still pretty young, all that stuff. But as you get older, it does become harder to lose weight because your stomach is more sensitive, and you find yourself in a position where your metabolism doesn't work the same. You have more responsibilities, more stress. Men's natural hormone levels kind of decline over time. Testosterone, growth hormone, everybody's growth hormone levels decline over time after the age of 19. So you kind of you lose that youthful metabolism. You become more busy. Your sleep quality can be interfered with, especially if you're working a lot, especially if you have kids, all that stuff. And so you find yourself in a position where it's very, very easy to gain weight. And so the times I gained weight before, like 2018, all that stuff, when I was younger, when I didn't have a business, all that stuff, they're relatively easy to lose. But this time around, it was very interesting because in 2022, I actually got the business, alhamdulillah, to where it is right now, like, 3x what it was, before I went into the Muslim niche, while staying fit and actually losing weight, right? So like at the beginning of 2022, I was actually 220, and I got down to like 212, like a really nice lean 212 by June 2022. But then I got engaged, and what happened was that a lot of guys will be able to relate with this, whether it's your wife or your fiance. And I've had a lot of clients who I've had this conversation with, and I've said, do not make the same mistake that I made, which is if your fiance or your wife tells you that she prefers you a little bit chunky, a little bit fat, dad bod, whatever these women say that they want, they may not be lying. I mean, even if she's 100% honest, she legitimately thinks you look way better with the dad bod. If you don't like the dad bod, then you cannot have the dad bod, and you cannot use it as an excuse. But I use it as an excuse to dirty bulk. And so I dirty bulked my way all the way from 212 to 232. Okay. Now, funny enough, all the way up to 226, I looked pretty decent, but the last 2 months of the bulk, I got significantly chunky. And at 232, I did not look good. And so, couple that with a lot of stress, and then go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, how much is that in kilos? Because obviously I'm UK based, so I don't do pounds.
Divide by 2.2. So like 220 is 100 kilos, right? 232 is like 105 kilos. And 212 is like 95 kilos ish.
Mashallah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of roughly how the correlations work. But yeah, so that's kind of like that's what happened, man. It was very, very infuriating because when my ex-fiance and I broke up in January, I was just like, dude, I'm like a shadow of my former self. I'm like this, fat guy now, right? And alhamdulillah, I was still able to get all the clients get results, but I was not practicing what I preached. And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it is something that is hated by Allah to preach something that you do not practice yourself. And that was one of my motivations to start again. Another one was I just wanted to like how I looked and felt again. I wanted to have energy again. I wanted to like what I see in the mirror and live the part of what I represent. And so that's when I got to work and started this journey. And alhamdulillah, I'm going to convert to kilos for you. Right now, I'm about 206, which is like, let's see, probably like 92 kilos ish. Yeah, let's say 92, 93 kilos. So even better than I was in June of last year, but it took a very long time this time, because while you're running a business, while you have high stress, all that stuff, sleep potentially being a factor, Ramadan being a factor, there's a lot of different things. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the strategy too, and like make it specific to the audience so they can kind of benefit. Because that's a big thing that inshallah we'll be able to cover today, in addition to like some of the business stuff at the end too, is like, the fitness stuff and like how this applies to the audience. Because the thing is, like, as a business owner and as a Muslim, you have a couple different obligations that, some non-business owner, non-Muslim is not going to be able to relate with, right? So like when you run a business, you can sometimes work a lot of hours, 12, 16, 18 hours a day, potentially, right? And a lot of professionals can relate with this too. And in addition to that, you might have kids, you have a marriage, and you also want to produce, but then you also have 5 daily prayers, Isha time, Fajr time, especially in the summer. You want to memorize Quran, you want to deepen your journey with the Deen, Islamic studies. You have Ramadan, we have different fasts, and we have different restrictions and different morals that we fulfill as Muslims. And I don't think that adds a whole lot of extra stress, but it certainly does. It certainly doesn't take away. Well, actually, it does take away stress because you have the tawakkul Allah, of course. But you guys get the idea where it's like it requires somebody to build their capacity and discipline to be the best Muslim they can be and perform in those areas while also getting fit and healthy. And so the blueprint is slightly different, significantly different, I would say, for a Muslim versus a non-Muslim, and definitely for a business owner versus a non-business owner. So, alhamdulillah.
I've got to admit, bro, mashallah, obviously I've known you for a very long time now. And I think the physique wise, especially since you started the boxing training, I think your physique is definitely at the peak since I've known you, in terms of definition. In terms of obviously size, I've seen you a bit bigger than that. But in terms of how good you look now, mashallah, and with the hair and the beard, mashallah, I think, you've been smashing it. So if you can, obviously you mentioned a little bit about, you're going to talk about strategy. So how did you lose that fat while still maintaining your muscle, or without losing muscle? How did you lose the 20 pounds, which is about, the 8 to 10 kilos? How did you do that without losing any muscle or muscle mass?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when you are pretty advanced and you have a lot of muscle, you are at a much higher risk of losing muscle when you're in a dieting phase, right? But you also know how to train more efficiently, and you know how to diet more efficiently and all that stuff. But especially if you lose muscle easily, whether you're advanced or you're a beginner, you may need to adjust the speed at which you want to lose the weight. Because like somebody who's a total beginner could gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. Like total beginner, you'll absolutely be able to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. You could easily lose 20, 30 pounds of fat in like your first like 12 to 16 weeks while gaining some muscle along the way. And then not even hit a plateau, not even hit a point of dieting fatigue, maybe even be able to diet for 6 months and lose like 40, 50 pounds or whatever it may be. Or even if you like have never trained optimally and maybe you're just an athlete in other ways, or you just kind of lift, casually, or maybe you lift 3, 4, 5 times a week, but you're not doing so with like a proper program and with proper like progressions and everything, and you just kind of lift for fun because you enjoy it and you enjoy the empowerment of it, which you've never dialed in your diet and nothing else, you could potentially actually get beginner like gains. Like I actually have a guy who's a jiu-jitsu competitor, right? And over the last 4 months, he's lost 39 pounds, mashallah, which is crazy. And he's only gained muscle and strength despite the fact that he was already athletic beforehand. In fact, if anything, his athleticism and his cardio capacity have helped him lose weight faster, right? But so a beginner can lose, 1 to 1.5% of their body weight per week, not an issue. And they can lose like 10 to 15% of their body weight before they usually have to do like a maintenance phase. But sometimes people could lose 20% of their body weight before they hit a point of dieting fatigue. And other people, they can only lose like 5 to 10% before they hit that point. And certainly as an advanced trainee, you have to lose, again, generally at a slower rate, which 0.5 to 0.75% of your body weight per week, or if you lose muscle easily, is a smarter way to go about it. So for me, what I did personally was I did 2 8-week diets with an 8-week maintenance phase in the middle of it for a total of about 6 months, right? And within that period, the first cut dropped about 10 to 12 pounds, which is like 5, 6 kilos, or let's say 5 kilos, right? And then we would come up right on Ramadan, right? So during Ramadan, I just focused on maintaining, because obviously in Ramadan, you could definitely drop fat. And I did drop like a small amount of fat, but I was mostly focused on maintaining muscle. And then from there, after Ramadan, did another 4 weeks of maintenance and then back into a cut. And alhamdulillah, now I'm finally at the point where I can kind of start like, eating more again and all that stuff. And, when you're cutting, you don't actually want to go too low in calories, because then it makes it very hard to stick to. It makes it miserable. It increases the risk of your metabolism slowing down, losing muscle, all that stuff. So you don't want to go too low. Like the lowest I ever brought my calories was 2,100, but usually my calories were about an average of 2,500 while I was cutting. Well, in contrast, while I was doing that dirty bulk that I used, I prefer you chunkier as an excuse to do was I was eating about 3,500 to 4,000, right? So yeah, and that's how big my appetite is. Like I actually genuinely have a big appetite. So there's a lot of like appetite hacks, so to speak. Like for a skinny guy trying to gain weight, you actually want foods that like liquid calories, adding extra oil to your food, stuff like that adds extra hidden calories for like a skinny guy who wants to gain weight. For somebody with a big appetite who wants to lose weight, it's the opposite, where you want high volume but low calorie density within the foods to ensure that you're not hungry. And there's other things with like carb manipulation you can do to help lower your appetite a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of nuance that goes into it, while always keeping your protein adequate amount so you're not losing muscle as well. So for me, my ideal protein zone is at least 250 grams a day, like 230 minimum, right? Which is a little bit more than a gram per pound in body weight and protein a day, but I also do well on 300 to 350. Past the point of 350, there's no real benefit to eating more protein for me. But again, it's very high numbers of protein. A lot of people might be kind of surprised by that. But when you eat more protein, that actually helps you to speed up your metabolism a little bit, because protein actually, so there's 4 factors, not metabolism actually, but total daily energy expenditure, which a lot of people will interchangeably use as with the term metabolism, which basically just means like, have you ever heard calories in versus calories out? Have you ever heard that before?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all, everything has to do with calories out, right? Versus calories in is everything that you eat. So calories out is also defined by total daily energy expenditure, which is your basal metabolic rate. So that's how many calories you'd burn if you were in a laying in bed, plus your NEAT, which is non-exercise activated thermogenesis. So it's like your step count, how much you move around throughout the day. Currently, you and I are burning calories as our brain processes information, utilizing energy, our hands move, whatever it may be. And that can become suppressed if you go too low in calories, which reduces the amount you burn, which slows down your progress. So it's important you have enough calories that you have energy and you can perform and you can speak and you can think, right? For sustainability and for results. So those are the first 2 parts of the equation. The third one is exercise activated thermogenesis. So how many calories you actually burn when you're like training, right? Number 4 is thermic effective food. And so thermic effective food is certain foods actually increase the amount of calories that you expend throughout the processing of that food. So 25% of the calories in protein actually are burned up through the thermic effect of foods, such that if you eat 100 calories of protein, 25 calories get burnt, which is added to your total daily energy expenditure. So and the funny thing is protein has 4 calories per gram. So it's kind of a 1-to-1 ratio in that every gram of protein you eat burns an extra calorie. So if I eat 200 grams of protein a day, that's burning an extra 200 calories per day, while also keeping me full, recovering my muscles, allowing me to eat, delicious steaks, all that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've wanted to visit you just to eat your food, man. I remember the days, about 2 years ago when you used to do the steak with the samurai sword and stuff. I've always wanted to come and try your cuisine. They look very good. You had egg quesadilla. How was that yesterday?
Delicious, alhamdulilah. And that's
the other good, man.
You gotta have recipes that taste good so you don't feel deprived, so your diet doesn't feel like a diet.
yeah, man. Yeah, and I think, mashallah, you smash it in that department. You always make me hungry when I watch your snaps, and you motivate me to want to go to the gym. Even though since I've got married, I've fallen into that dad bod category. Alhamdulillah. So we're on the way back down, inshallah. We're on the way back down. So, bro, tell me. So, obviously, we've talked a little bit about the different sort of calorie ins and calorie outs, and there was some very informative stuff there that obviously I wasn't even aware of. But what would you say? What would you say is the exact strategy that we can utilize? Us as the audience, or maybe even someone like myself, who's at the moment not prioritizing working out, is prioritizing calorie in, calorie out sort of method, where I'm just watching what I eat at the moment, just because work is so busy. But that's an excuse. I'm just not prioritizing the gym. But what are the strategies that your audience can apply?
Yeah, so there's 2 things I want to address there. The first one is we got to get you consistent with the gym again. So the thing because the thing is, calories out, the gym is a part of that equation, right? So like the amount of muscle mass you have is related to your is related to your metabolism and how many calories you burn per day. Yeah. So you're going to burn less calories. But the other thing is, when you go to the gym, you are burning calories, and obviously you could just lose weight without working out, just through diet and going for walks, but walks still counts as exercise, so you still have to go do something, right? But I think for you, like, biggest thing is if you're going to be like prioritizing business, you have to realize that the version of you who works out and is as strong as possible and as disciplined as possible is by far better at business than the version that is not.
100%.
So, so that's the first thing, is just like how, are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just like how,
I'm Palestinian, bro.
Just like
I've got to drink coffee.
Exactly. So just like how you probably wouldn't start your workday without drinking coffee because you need that energy to perform your best. Same thing. Don't start your workday without some form of exercise because you need that energy to perform your best. So, and same thing with like stress management. So it's going to have benefits in business. So if you're prioritizing business, that's all the more reason to work out. But it also means that you shouldn't work out 3 hours a day because that would take away from business. So it'd be like 30 to 60 minutes, and that'll give you the boost you need, whether it's the walk, whether it's the gym. And then from there, yeah, it would just be a matter of figuring out how many calories you burn. So obviously, you know, you could have somebody like me figure that out for you, or you could just track what you eat, see how your weight responds. And then if your weight goes up from how much you're eating, you know that it's beyond what you're burning. If your weight stays about the same from what you're eating and you track everything, then you know that's how many calories you're burning. And if your weight goes down over that week while you're tracking, then you know that you're actually already in a deficit, and all you have to do is maintain that amount or slightly increase the amount of deficit that you have. So let's say that you eat like 3,000 calories, right? And your weight stays the same, and you do that for a week or two. You're like, okay, my metabolism is currently burning 3,000. So if I eat 2,500, I'm going to be in a deficit of 500 per day. Multiplied by 7 days in a week is 3,500. And 3,500 is the amount of calories you need to burn a pound of fat. So simply by going down to 2,500, which is not bad at all, you could easily do that by reducing the amount of oil in your food, and then just still eating a little bit more meat, a little bit more protein, but keeping the cuts of meat lean. Boom, that little adjustment alone could make all the difference to get you down 500 calories. Now you're losing a pound a week. 6 months from now, you wake up and you're 26 pounds lighter. So
yeah, man.
Assuming that your metabolism doesn't slow down, though, because if it were, which it's probably not going to slow down at that rate of progress, you would just do a maintenance phase. And that's where like the more advanced you are, sometimes you have to do more of a maintenance phase, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. And I think even just it's just subhanAllah, just the last few weeks I haven't actually been in the gym. Just yesterday I was telling my wife, or this morning, I was saying to her, "Khalas, you know, when we go back down to the city that we're from, we need to get back into the gym. I've had enough." Because I've always been in, I think it's also about identifying, right? So like my identity is I've always been sort of an athlete or a sports person, even though I might not look like a footballer, some people say I look more like a rugby player because of my size. But I've always been, you know, in the gym or athletic, and it's what you were saying earlier about, you know, you perform your best, right, when you've been in the gym, even in business. And I'm like that. And you said that at the start of this, and jazakallah khair, but my perfect routine is literally, you know, fajr, gym, work. That is like essentially the best. That is when I feel the most optimal, most productive, better performance. Everything is just more aligned. And I just wanted to know, so obviously we all have different body types, right? And alhamdulillah, I think one of the things that helped me out last year was calorie deficit with HIIT workouts, right? That really, for my wedding, got me in really good shape, alhamdulillah. And obviously that was the motivation of the wedding. But what would you say in terms of like different body types and genetics and you know, the experience or the levels of you know, the levels of experience that are needed for them to lose weight? How much can the different body types or the genetics and experience levels lose? You know, what would you say is the ballpark?
Yeah, so somebody who's either detrained, so they haven't really trained consistently or properly in a long time, or they're a beginner who just wants to strictly lose weight, would be able to lose 1 to 1.5% of their body weight per week. So like somebody who weighs 100 kilos could lose 1 to 1.5 kilos a week, aka 220 pounds. You could lose about 2.2 to 3.3 pounds per week. Now, somebody who's a little bit more advanced, they could push the pace on that if they're not worried about losing muscle and it's easy for them to like maintain their muscle and all that stuff. Could push the pace at like 1% of their body weight per week, and maybe do that for an 8 to 12 week period before they then take a maintenance phase, or they might risk losing muscle or getting dieting fatigue or crashing their metabolism. But you could also take a more conservative approach, especially if you're worried about losing muscle, which a lot of guys who are like really serious in the gym who have been building muscle for a long time are. To where you might go 0.5 to 0.75% of your body weight per week and just take a more slow and steady approach. And that also allows you to eat more calories so you can still perform well in the gym. So now you mentioned for yourself that HIIT plus calorie deficit works really well. So that's good because you've always been an athlete. So for you, the muscle memory and sort of the lung memory, the heart memory comes back pretty quick because your body has had that high athletic capacity before. So you can definitely leverage that to become in athletic shape very quickly again. And then especially if you add weight training on top of that, that'll also help you to keep your results a little bit better too. And then also, I think another thing is very, very important, especially for somebody who does like a crash diet or very intense diet prior to like a wedding or a big event or something, is also have the right plan to transition off of it. Because if you just stop the diet cold turkey and then you go to normal eating, especially if normal eating is like unhealthy food, and especially if you are really like, you can't wait to be able to eat whatever you want after the diet because the diet was so intense, and then you eat whatever you want plus. So not just like normal, eat like a normal person, but you're like, oh, I can't wait to eat 15 plates of, munsaf and makluba or whatever, right? Or what's your favorite Palestinian dish?
Probably either مسخن, which is bread based, or you put me in a sticky position. If we're talking Palestinian, it's got to be matluba, but in terms of Middle Eastern, it's probably either kapsa or mandi, but they're more sort of Gulf region, Yemen and Gulf, but yeah, they're sort of probably the ones that scream out at me at the moment. So 3 are rice based and 1 is bread based, so yeah, full of carbs. All with meat, so there's protein, there's tons of protein, of course.
With lots of fatty meat and with lots of oil too. So
yeah.
So let's say so if after the diet you're like so hungry that you're going to eat so much oil that George W. Bush thinks they need to invade your body because there's just too much oil in there, then I think that's definitely the point that a lot of people get to on the diet. And then if you go and do that, you're going to put on weight rapidly because after a diet your metabolism will slow down, so you're primed to gain a bunch of body fat. And that's why a lot of people rapidly gain like 10, 20 pounds back super fast or more, right?
Yeah.
So but being able to transition off of it properly and having a little bit of discipline when transitioning off. I mean, you can still have a couple of cheat meals, but you don't want to have a cheat month or 2 months. That's
I had a cheat 8 months.
Exactly, cheat 8 months. Cheat 8 months is a great way to quickly gain a lot back. But again, if you're disciplined with it and you do like a very structured, clean, either lean bulking plan out of a cut, or you do, again, a reverse diet followed by a maintenance phase, which basically just means you slowly up your calories to get your metabolism back up over the course of like 4 to 8 weeks. Then you hold it at that weight until that weight feels very normal to you and you don't crave like unhealthy food or anything. That is the best way to do it. And then once you feel like you're ready for another diet, if you have more weight to lose, then you could do that. If not, though, obviously, or if you don't need to do another diet, then you can just maintain that for the rest of your life pretty easily.
So we relate it back to, obviously, because you've done it. So obviously you're the coach, you've been there, you've done that, you've got the experience. You can say that, you've done it for yourself and you've done it for your clients, obviously, I know that. So what did you do? What helped you sort of with that, with your body type? What was it that really helped you sort of get to that level where you maintained your muscle and you slimmed down? Obviously, because I was an athlete, obviously my heart rate was good with HIIT and my muscle memory, because I did used to do weight training when I was younger. So all of these things, obviously, the memory does help me. But what was it that helped you? And what was it with your diet? How many cheat days, for example, did you have? Or did you really not have any cheat days? If you can just share that with us, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So the combination that really worked well was still weight, because when I was doing like the dirty bulk thing that I did last year that got me fat in the first place, I was training like 3 days a week lifting and pretty intensely, sometimes 4. So what I did was I upped my lifting sessions to 4, but I started training a little bit more bodybuilding style as opposed to strength training style. And I started doing a lot more cardio because I wasn't really doing cardio when I was bulking. And with the cardio, I tracked my steps. So at first I started about 10,000 steps a day. And part of that was from cardio on the machine after the gym. Part of that was like going through for walks throughout my day. And then obviously I controlled my calorie intake as well. So the first thing I did that actually helped me to control my appetite, because again, my appetite naturally, I was eating 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day, just without even thinking about it, right? Even if I was eating clean, that's how much I would eat because my appetite was just so huge at that point. What I did was I actually did no carbs in my first meal of the day. Now, that's not something that I continue to do. I just did that to kind of jumpstart the diet the first like 2-3 weeks. But the downside with that is that you can start to kill your performance in the gym if you don't have enough carbs in your system. And what then happens is that if you're not hitting the gym hard enough, then you could potentially lose more muscle, and you also get kind of demotivated because your workouts suck. You're like, oh, cutting sucks, right? So I removed carbs from my first meal of the day, and that prevented the appetite stimulating effect that carbs can sometimes have for people with huge appetites. So that was very helpful. And it also helped me drop a lot of bloating. So I was able to drop like, I think 4 pounds the first week of just bloating. And then from there, after like 3 weeks, when I started to feel like really weak in the gym, that's when I then upped my carbs again and lowered my fats and just went with a much higher carb, high protein, low fat. diet, and that is typically what works best with the lifting and of course up in the cardio and keeping the cardio relatively high. So that was for the first 8 weeks, and then I did the maintenance phase. Then the remaining 8 weeks, that's when I took on boxing, in addition to everything else I was doing, and I upped my steps to about 12 to 15,000. And I actually kept the calories higher, like 2,500 instead of 2,100 to 2,700, so slightly higher. And I kept with the low fat, higher carb approach, but I would still occasionally do like lower carbs just to drop bloating if I started to get bloated at all. And another big switch I made was one of my favorite breakfast foods used to be oatmeal because it gives you a ton of energy. But I noticed, especially in the summer, I started to get a lot more bloated from oatmeal. And same with brown rice. I was a big fan of brown rice, especially in the winter. When the summer came, I noticed I started to get really bloated from brown rice. So I switched, and now I do basmati rice. And instead of oatmeal, I actually use sweet potato as my carb in the morning, and I put honey and cinnamon on it, and it's the most delicious thing. So yeah, it's actually a breakfast I literally like get up and I'm looking forward to eating it because it's so sweet and delicious. So highly recommend. But yeah, that was the strategy specific for me. And I think there was a second part to that question.
There was, but I can't remember it. I think it was, how was you able to maintain that after with the food? So I said with the food and then maintaining the muscle mass. What was the strategy that you used? I think that was the question.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So part of what helped to maintain was like doing that 8-week, maintenance phase after the first diet, where I upped my calories slightly, right? And I just held that for 8 weeks until I was like, okay, I feel ready to do another diet, because I got into the point of dieting fatigue where I was getting diminishing returns for the amount of effort I was putting in. Performance was starting to suffer in the gym a little bit. So when you get all that physical and dieting fatigue, it's a good time to kind of back off of it a little bit and then ramp it back up. So, but then, and then I went back into it, and then right now I'm transitioning back to a maintenance phase. So yeah, and then the key to keeping your muscle is keeping your protein very high. So at least 1 gram per pound in body weight, right? Which is 2.2 grams of protein per kilo in body weight. And then not going too low or trying to cut too fast with your calories, and then keeping your carbs high enough that you still perform well in the gym and you still have good energy levels. You can use some carb cycling where you drop your carbs a little bit if you need to drop bloating or control your appetite. But you don't want to go too low in carbs, because if you go too low in carbs and your workouts start to suck and you start to have no energy and you start having all these cravings, then it just sucks.
And I remember the other part was about cheat days. How did you manage your cheat days?
Yes, thank you. So I never do full on cheat days, because a cheat day, like if there's a day, especially if like the intention is how can I eat as much as possible. Now some people like there's this actually famous bodybuilder named Juan Morel who eats 20,000 calories on his cheat day. The thing is, bodybuilders at that level take a lot of stuff. Like they take insulin, they take steroids, they take growth hormone, they take
20,000 calories in one day.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's like a cheat day. They take,
that's like a cheat year.
yeah, exactly. They'll take thyroid. So there's a lot of stuff that those guys take that, obviously that
helps them. Yeah.
Are natural, and even for most people who are taking stuff, they probably shouldn't do that. But he's like top level bodybuilder, 275 pounds, jacked and shredded. It's funny because on his cheat day in the video, you see him going to get pizza with his family, and all of them are like 300 plus pounds. So you can tell that if he didn't lift, he would be 300 plus pounds of body fat as well. So you can hack genetics, but you just got to work hard. But anyways, but
quickly, just on that one. So when you did your, from the 232 to the 202 or 212, how much did you lose? 20 pounds, right?
The first 8 weeks?
Yes, it was, you went down from 232, I think you said, to 202 or 206, something like that.
And just to clarify the number, sorry, 232 is my heaviest weigh-in, like wearing clothes, everything. But if I woke up morning weigh-in and I was bloated from the day before when I first started, I was really 226. And I did the first week where I dropped all that bloat and lost all that fluid, I was 222. And then I got down to 212. So 20 pounds from my heaviest to my lightest the first 8 weeks. And then the second 8 weeks, I went from like 214 to 206. So much slower.
So that's a complete 16-week transition, yeah? With 8 weeks.
8 weeks between, so really 24 weeks total. 24
weeks. How many cheat days did you have in those 24 weeks? How, did you do one a week? Was it one a month? Was it, I can't afford a cheat day at the moment because I'm slimming down? Because obviously there's a lot of us that work out and we want to do cheat days. So how do you make it work?
Nobody can do cheat day. Cheat day is too loose. It's too detrimental. You have to do a cheat meal.
Cheat
So,
meal. Okay.
but a whole on cheat day, you're just going to do way too much damage. You can undo an entire week's worth of progress in a single day of just cheat. Like
Oh, no.
let's say you have fool with oil in the morning and have some cakes afterwards. That's your cheat meal, your cheat day breakfast. Then for lunch, you go and you get some rice with extra oil and some lamb. And then for dinner, you go and you get,
Pizza.
olive oil and some pizza with us, and you put some olive oil on your pizza too, and then you get some lamb and then a steak, and then later that
But
night,
olive oil is healthy, man. I'm Palestinian. Don't tell me olive oil is not healthy, bro.
olive oil is healthy. But when did I say that olive oil wasn't healthy? I said that
No, you didn't.
calories are unhealthy. But the oil that I use is actually specifically Jerusalem olive oil. Well, I have a Jerusalem olive oil and a different Palestinian olive oil. So yeah, Palestinian olive oil is actually the best. It's better than Spanish olive oil. It's better than Italian. It's better than Moroccan. So Palestinian olive oil is the best, but the quantities must be moderated, because even if you ate 5,000 calories of chicken, the thermic effect would be really high because it's a lot of protein, but you still be in a surplus. You still get fat off eating chicken breast if you could theoretically eat. And you probably get kidney disease too from eating that excessive protein. But but no, like, and then let's say that you ate like, some ice cream and cake later that night. That's like that. If you eat 10,000 calories in a day and you were only in a deficit of 7,000 for the week, you just undid the entire week's deficit in a single day. However, one cheat meal, and a single meal, you could eat 3,000 calories, which actually could theoretically undo the deficit. But there is also something to be said about, like, you're not going to absorb the entire cheat meal, and you get to a point, especially with the way that I teach people how to diet and how to eat, where the foods that you're eating physiologically feel good. Like, they taste good because I give people the recipes to make their food extremely flavorful and delicious, to where they actually look forward to it. But the quality of ingredients is very good to where you physiologically feel better. And if you go eat some pizza, you feel gross. You feel the oil coming out of your pores. You feel the bloating. You feel gross. Let's say you go get some of that low quality Costco olive oil in the plastic container, as opposed to some nice Palestinian olive oil in a nice glass container. You're going to feel that olive oil sucks, versus the Palestinian olive oil, you feel great, as long as you don't have too much of it. So, like, shout out to Palestine. See, I make it up if I gave the wrong impression that I was anti olive oil. No, I'm definitely pro olive oil, just moderate quantities. But yeah, so then, or like if you eat all the sugar and you're all bloated and you feel tired. So people get used to eating clean and they enjoy eating clean, especially if the food tastes good and the quantities are low enough that you're losing weight, but high enough that you feel satisfied and full. So people like I tell people, you can eat whatever you want on a cheat meal within reason. And like, just, make sure it's high protein. Like, if you're going to get pizza, get a meat pizza, right? If you're going to, go to an Indian restaurant, don't be just getting like bread and chickpeas. Like, chickpeas have a little bit of protein, but like, you should get some bread and like some proper curry with meat. And that'll just usually, and you need to do it on a lifting day. And that'll usually just go to muscle growth. Now, for me personally, what I do for my cheat meals, I do sushi. And I do tuna sushi. And when you get sushi, you do need to ask them to not put alcohol in the rice. You have to just ask them to do the steamed rice regular, because otherwise they're going to put alcohol in the rice. And now this thing that you thought was halal because it was fish is actually haram. So make sure they don't put alcohol in it. But like, plus, even from like a fitness perspective, non-Muslim clients, is alcohol just bad for like fat loss too, which I know from working with non-Muslim clients. But like, yeah, so tuna sushi, I'll just get a ton of tuna sushi. I'll eat to my heart's content. And the cool thing is that those carbs, especially after I've been depleted from cutting, will just go towards muscle growth. And the tuna is very lean protein, so it has minimal fat. Occasionally I'll do Middle Eastern food, but typically I'll stick with like sushi, and I just make healthy Middle Eastern food during the week. I think my shawarma recipe, I have actually have a couple of lamb recipes, mutton. So there's a lot of different things we can do. I'm getting hungry though, thinking about this.
Yeah, mashallah, you're making me hungry too. I was gonna say, bro, so obviously, mashallah, you're not just like a health guru, right? You obviously do nutrition, you do diets, you do recipes, you've got some amazing videos on some of the things, especially in Ramadan. You had the little phase where you were making lots of videos on recipes, which were really nice to see. So what's your strategy with like nutrition, exercise, cardio? What is that you do there? What is the strategy there for that?
Yeah, so the strategy, like with clients,
if you want to do clients, yeah, or if you want to do yourself, but whatever way you want to answer it.
Yeah, I mean, well, with myself, we've kind of already covered it. So yeah, let's talk about clients. So like, so with clients, obviously I need to figure out what they're currently eating, and I want to figure out, not only roughly where their calories are at based on what I can estimate from what they're currently eating, so I can give them the appropriate amount of calories, also relative to their body type and their weight and their age and all that, and their height and all that stuff, and gender, but also so I can tailor what I'm going to have them eating and the recipes to suit the foods that they're accustomed to eating. Because let's say that you have somebody who they grew up their whole life eating curry every day for every meal, and all of a sudden you say, now you have to eat sweet potato and egg whites. They're not gonna be able to stick to that, right? But even if you put curry powder on the egg whites, they still won't be able to stick to it. But if you give them a low-fat, high-protein curry recipe to where they still feel like they're eating curry, and maybe it's not as decadent and oily as what they're used to, and maybe the carb portion is smaller, but they still get to eat carbs, which makes them really happy because they're like, oh, wow, I can actually eat rice on this, and I can still lose weight, right? And I can eat curry and rice and still lose weight, as our good friend Adam Khan says, right? So like, again, that's always very heartening for people. Or like, somebody who's like, wow, I can eat shawarma and I can eat, Chinese stir fry rice. There's a lot of things I can eat as long as they're prepped the right way. So I give them the right recipes, and I make it very simple and easy, like not these complex recipes you see online that have like 10 million ingredients, but all my recipes, some of my recipes are complex, but the main ones I give, beginners, especially like, let's say there's a guy who can't get his wife to like cook for him these healthy things, or she's opposed to it, so he has to cook for himself. Like 5 ingredients. I want the recipes to be like 5 ingredients max. So it's very easy to make and it's foolproof. So that way, people are able to do the shawarma, the kebabs, whatever it may be, the curry, and they're able to actually just enjoy it while hitting the numbers I need them to hit. And then from there, I go through their lifestyle with them and I help them install like ways to fit exercise and walking into their day such that they don't feel that it's negatively taken away from their life, but rather it's possibly adding. Like, for instance, I have a Hafid who is trying to get like more steps. And he also had a problem where when he's revising Quran after Fajr, he notices himself feeling very sleepy with the sleepy, peaceful vibes of the masjid after Fajr. And so he finds it hard to like stay awake and focus when he's revising Quran in the morning. And Hafad have to revise the Quran every 40 days. So we fixed both those problems at the same time. By after Fajr, now he walks on the treadmill while reading his revising the Quran, which helps him focus and stay awake. So his performance with his revision is better, and he's getting steps and burning calories. Or like a lot of guys get like an under the desk treadmill with a standing desk. And then I'll also have guys do step count competitions with each other or as a group, so that guys competitive nature gets going. The Sisters program has a big step count challenge going as well. So we get people kind of just living this healthy lifestyle and then fitting in training in a way that actually fits their lifestyle, whether they only could train 30 minutes 3 times a week, but that's enough to give them that boost and everything else, or whether they're a diehard athlete, they want to train 5-6 days a week, an hour or 2 a day. We create a custom program for them in addition to all the other stuff, in addition to building a more productive lifestyle for them and helping them set boundaries with different things and pursue their deen goals, their professional goals, their familial goals. I've had single guys who came into the program who ended up getting married. I've had, I was thinking, have I had a guy who's come in with fertility issues and then he finally got his testosterone levels up and had a baby? I don't think so yet. Actually, there might be, I'm not going to give anybody's confidential info, but, obviously your fertility goes up when you work out and all that stuff. So, that could be beneficial if somebody is like trying to have a baby. But more importantly, like I've had people who lost their job and then got a job through my group, right? Or who performed better at work and got tons of promotions or scaled their business. I've had people produce 200% on their revenue quota at work. So fitness is going to elevate every other area of your deen and dunya, especially when it's installed in the right way to be conducive and synergistic and harmonious with the rest of your lifestyle in both deen and dunya.
I completely agree with that. And mashallah, I think it's amazing that, you're able to have this much impact. And I think, one of the things, and one of the reasons we started the Muslim Amir is because we want to impact and transform one Muslim life a day. And inshallah, our long-term vision is to have developed 1 million leaders that are Muslim worldwide by 2030. And hearing what you said today was really powerful for me, because I know I'm not going to be able to impact the million directly. It's directly and indirectly. So when you tell me that, mashallah, I've been able to impact some of your program with your clients, that gives me a lot of, sense of, alhamdulillah, just gratefulness. And I want to kind of just shift now and transition into the business side of things, because you said, mashallah, you've managed to help your clients with business, you managed to help your clients with work, you managed to help professionals, get better. You've even been able to help with fertility stuff, inshallah. So with your business, obviously mashallah, you work out a lot. I saw the tip, this is probably the best shape I've ever seen you in, even your face, mashallah, it's got the definition now, alhamdulillah. Where would you say you've benefited the most with your business over the last sort of year and a half, or excelled the most? And where would you feel you've been challenged the most?
I say benefited, like I've learned a lot of lessons. I've made and lost a lot of money, alhamdulillah. And and that actually leads into my biggest struggle, which has been like tracking, cash flow management, and like you know, I would say too, like when revenue flow is really good, I just kind of throw money at stuff. But then if you might have a down month, then that could be detrimental because your overhead ends up being really high and you become accustomed to just throwing money at stuff, whether it's staff and like not to sound like a greedy businessman, but like paying my staff too much. Cause like when I bring people on, especially if like we're having a good month, I'm just like, boom, I'm just giving them an offer for really, really high pay. And then but then I have them locked in at high pay. And then if I have a down month, all of a sudden that starts to hurt. You know what I'm saying? So I've actually had to adjust the comp plan just a little bit, where the incentives are actually better aligned to get better output from the employees and give them actually greater earning potential if they perform well, but not incentivize just laziness while still making a lot of money for being lazy. And that's, I think, been important. So I guess probably the biggest challenge has been like managing expenses, and the greatest benefit has been producing, you know, more revenue and learning a lot of stuff and like scaling. But then with scaling comes the challenges of like greater expenses, team management, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think obviously I must remember this is what we help businesses with. And I was just actually just before this call, I was with a prospect where we helped them with this like employee productivity and performance, and we literally just broke everything down, and it was really nice to see their reaction and their eyes light up of like, wow, there's so much value. How you've just broken down how we should manage our team and how we should increase the productivity and performance. And I was speaking to someone else also today who told me he's a sort of a business coach and a mindset coach and also fitness. So what he does is in his program, he brings people on that are clients, and he says to them, you have to work out when you work with me. So you can't be a business owner and come on my program and not work out. You have to work out at least 3 times a day. And if you don't work out, we don't, you know, I don't speak to you, and I don't, you know, you don't get the service. And I thought that was amazing because he's aligned his values into his, you know, client value, like client's life, and it's not become just business; it's become lifestyle. And I thought that's amazing. Obviously, we try and do it from a spiritual perspective as well. Obviously, Mr. Mounir, we help and consult businesses with Islamic principles and spiritual aspects. But it was really nice to see him do that. And as you were talking, I was just thinking, maybe you could also do that with your team, where it's obviously because you're in the fitness space, that they have to be doing certain things fitness-wise. Obviously, I'm pretty sure your guys are probably jacked up and the sisters are in good shape, but you know that could be something that you could implement. And I was just going to ask. So obviously, you said that managing finances has been an issue, and I think it's always an issue because as an ummah, we don't have financial literacy and education, and I think it's something that we're working very hard to do, especially in the UK. I'm working with a few groups and a few institutes. I'm trying to help the ummah in that regard. But where would you say with your employees, or how many employees do you have? Let's start with that.
2, 4, 7. So 7 in first world countries, and then 2 in third world countries. Or no, sorry, 3 in third world countries.
Allahumma jazil barik. Allahumma jazil barik. May Allah bless you and it's honestly, I'm so proud. Just, you know, it's just amazing, bro. And I'll never forget when you told me in the last podcast, you said that 18 months ago, you were like, content is king. And I learned that, and I'm now just going to implement it. And just to see the growth, but honestly, my eyes have lit up. My heart is so warm, Allah. MashaAllah, may Allah continue to bless you, akhi. So from managing your employees and that aspect, obviously, because I'm assuming the majority of them are virtual.
Yeah, none of them are in person.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say has been, in that regard, something that you were challenged with, and what would you say is something that you found was nice to deal with, or an easy thing to deal with, in terms of keep maintaining their performance and productivity? Because you've mentioned that, so that's some key words that I like to listen.
Yeah. So like one challenge that I've overcome with this is like, so for instance, interesting question. You do have me a little bit stumped because I'm trying to think what was a challenge. I mean, definitely like, so my whole thing, like when I brought everybody on, was I wanted to like flex that I pay my people 3 times better than most gyms do. So I was like, so I brought on like people at extremely high pay, and I was just like, yeah, I mean,
I love the honesty, bro.
and I'm like, So then I made that kind of part of my advertising. I'm like, what, were you going to go work for some trainer at the gym? That doesn't make sense. I'm paying these people 3 times better than these trainers at the gym even make. Do you want some amateur who can't even demand a high pay, or do you want like the best of the best and retain the best talent? But then what I realized is that if people are making a lot per hour, even if they don't perform and even if they're quality people, eventually they might lose a little bit of motivation. And it's not that they're intending to, it's just, if you're having a rough day, but you still know that you're going to get paid a lot, there's not a whole lot of incentive to perform, versus if your pay is tied to your performance, you'll always do much better. And I can actually demand even more from you, and the client gets a better outcome, and everybody gets a better outcome. And the top performers should be able to make more than even the hourly people, right? So I changed the comp plan a little bit to where the base hourly is still twice what most gyms pay people instead of 3 times, but the bonus is 5 times as much, or bonus potential is 5 times as much as it was before, such that you can actually end up making way more money, but your performance has to be extremely high. So I set certain client metrics, like certain metrics that you have to have the clients achieve if you're a coach within my business, to hit those bonuses. And I also introduced a penalty if you don't get the client a certain result, but I worded it for the penalty such that it's actually like it's not like legally shady or anything. It's basically like they're still getting paid, but they agree to this. So here's one thing that we do is if a client was slower to get a result than was intended, and it wasn't genuinely the client's fault, like it was something like they got sick for 2 weeks or whatever, or they got behind on results or whatever, or maybe they had a bad week, but otherwise they were honest, and give their best, then we give them like a free extension. Because my biggest thing is, on the day of judgment, I want it to be that nobody got the short end of the stick from me, but everybody always got the best end of the stick. As long as, now if somebody just ghosts me and stops responding, there's not a whole lot I can do. And that's happened like twice over the course of working with over 1,000 clients, where somebody just paid and then vanished, right? But again, that's very rare, like 0.2% of the time. But so with the clients, I do give a lot of like bonus time if somebody needs just a little bit more time, especially if they've been like a low maintenance client, all that stuff. But then so the problem though is that if I'm paying the employees for all that bonus time, my profitability rapidly declines. So the whole thing is that if you have not gotten a client a result within KPI, and we're giving that client some bonus time, I don't want to reduce the amount of service the client gets, but the pay is still better than what like most gyms pay their people, but it goes down quite a bit until you get them the result.
They need to be according.
Exactly. Then once you do get them the result into KPI, then you get bonused out to where it levels out for like the decreased pay penalty that you're going to have to do when you give people the extra services. That way the incentives are still aligned, where they don't give less effort to the client where they're now getting paid less for. So I've set up, we had to very creatively set up the comp plan to do that, but it definitely works a lot better. And then also the way that I bring on people, before it would just be interview, hire. But now what we do is interview, internship. And then they have to make it through an internship where they show me their true colors. And I actually work with them as a client for 4 weeks first, before we then start training them for the job. And that gives them the ability to experience what it's like to be a client. It also allows me to hook them up with some free services and get them in shape too, because I can't have people working for me if they're out of shape. How are you going to be a fitness coach if you're not in shape, or a fitness consultant if you're not in shape? And then, but it also gets me to see, are they good at tracking data? Do they make excuses? Do they show up late for meetings before I actually hire them? Because let's say I hire somebody who sucks at tracking data, and now I have to clean up after them all the time. They're unprofessional. They don't take feedback well. They're late to everything. They're always making excuses. That's a nightmare hire. So the internship process has actually helped to fix that. It does take a little bit of work on our end, but we're able to recruit like a kind of batch of interns. We're able to hook them up to where even the ones who don't get the job still get $2,000 worth of free training, because actually, well, $1,000 to $2,000 worth of free coaching. Actually, if you consider the fact they're working directly with me, it's actually more. But so I'm hooking them up and transforming more of them, teaching some people some great things. Even the ones who don't get hired still learn a ton, and it works really well. And then other things I've done is I've delegated a lot of stuff that was like cumbersome for me, that was really slowing me down. But I over delegated. And that was another big mistake that I made, was I delegated certain things prematurely and created a great lifestyle for myself where like I only have to work 4 hours a day. But then I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm losing a little bit of control over certain processes that are not up to the KPI that I want. So then I've had to step in and clean that up. And that's not necessarily fun, but it's a growth opportunity, because so Allah tests people for a couple of reasons. Allah tests those who he loves. Allah tests people to help them grow to be who they need to be. And a lot of those tests turn into blessings. And another way in which our tests can be blessings, and there's a verse in the Quran, I can't remember what surah I was in, but Allah tests people to humble them. And I realized that that's one way that I had become arrogant. I said, oh, I have all this social media success and I'm making all this money to where now I can delegate. Now I don't have to work anymore. I finally made it, right? And, you know, that is a goal that many people have, is to get their business to a point of scale where they don't have to work anymore, per se, or they don't really have to do any of the grunt work. But what I realized is that in embracing the grunt work and working hard and not being entitled, it's a form of Allah humbling me to bring me back into things and allow me to be a better version of myself and build my character and be more disciplined and not be lazy. And so what I realize is that Allah answers our prayers in ways that we don't expect. And sometimes the way that Allah answers our prayers is by testing us first and by giving something that almost feels like a punishment, where it's like, what did I do wrong? Am I being punished? Am I being expiated right now? And that's another thing, is we get expiation for our sins when we go through suffering that Allah has decreed for us to raise our rank in Jannah. There's so many reasons why Allah tests us and puts us through, and there's so much blessings upon Allah. So that's what I realized. And that's why I see it now as a gift that some of the different tests and tribulations I've seen in my business have come up. So alhamdulillah. So that's a long answer to your question.
Alhamdulillah. No, that was amazing, bro. And I think there's so many gems that you drop. And I think, just conscious of the time, I want to finish on a gem that's from you. So what would be one piece of value, or let's say your the diamond, the gem that's yours, your value bomb, let's say, what would that be for you?
Well, we can't call them bombs because here in the US we have something called who's always listening. No, I'm just kidding. But no, value. I can't say explosion either. And we also can't say
value gem. Let's just say value gem. Value gem.
We also can't say your social media blew up. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, sorry, bad joke. But value gems, yes, good call. So value gem, number one, be careful what you say. No, I'm kidding. Value gem. I would say health is wealth, man. Like, that's something my grandpa told me one time when he was in the hospital. And it really made me realize something, because you really can't put a price on your health. And when you're in a position where your health, I mean, so actually there's a hadith on this, right? Take advantage of 5 before 5, right? From the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yes, exactly.
Like, your health before your illness, your youth before your old age, your free time before your, I think, work or before you're busy, your life before your death, and your wealth before your poverty. I think those are the 5, but we can double check that on Google, Sheikh Google. But anyway, so actually I think that would be like the value gem, is like, how does that apply to us as modern Muslim entrepreneurs, right? Within the Muslim Amir audience. So I think that it is not easy to balance business, fitness, Islam, family, but what are the choice do you have? But that also doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It just means this is a journey of growth that we all are going to be on, that we all must embrace. And the work never ends. Like, people think I'll be happy when, but the reality is there is no when. The work never ends. And so you have to find the gratitude for it today, right now, and realize that even the things that are a nuisance for you are blessings from Allah to build your character and better yourself and to humble you, right? So I think that's a huge value gem, because it allows us to embrace the work from a place of gratitude, such that our output is much greater, and such that we're able to show up as better versions of ourselves as entrepreneurs, as Muslims, when it comes to fitness, taking care of the body, the amana that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, and also when it comes, most importantly, to our deen and our actual practice of the religion, our actual acts of ibadah, our worship, right? So I will finish with the classic, analogy, which is, everybody likes cars. Do you like cars?
Cars?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I like cars.
So let's say that Allah gave you, a really nice car, right? And or let's say not even like Allah like made it come from the sky, but let's say that like a respected friend and mentor of yours gave you a really nice car to borrow for, let's just say 80 years, right? Then let's say that, you have to return that car to your friend when you're 80 years old, or maybe 70, or maybe 85, or maybe 65, or maybe prematurely. Who knows when you're gonna have to return that car? But you would take care of that car every day. You would put good fuel in that car instead of cheap, low quality fuel that damages the engine. You wouldn't get it dinged up. If it did get messed up, you would fix it. Well, guess what? Our bodies are worth a lot more than a car. Nobody would chop off their arm just to have a nice, beautiful car or a Bugatti. So even your arm alone is worth more than a car. And then when we look at the entire body that Allah has given us, subhanAllah. So the fuel that we put in our body, the way that we treat our body, because we are going to have to return it to Allah, and Allah is infinitely more valuable than any mentor or friend that we have. Allah is the greatest, of all things, right? The greatest in generosity, the al-wali, the protector, our guiding friend, right? So Allah is everything to us. So we have even more of a responsibility to treat our bodies right. And I think that's another huge motivational piece that will help all of us to stay more motivated as Muslims, to be healthy and fit, to take care of our body, our mind, our soul, and ultimately to be the best and healthiest Muslims that we could possibly be.
Jazakallah khair, bro. And may Allah bless you. May Allah accept all your efforts. Jazakallah khair for coming and speaking on podcast. Of course, where can we find you?
Welcome. The Modern Muslim Man on Instagram, all one word. Also on, actually, do I have a Facebook for the Modern Muslim Man? I just have Mounir Lazzouni too on Facebook, and the Modern Muslim Man on YouTube, TikTok. So yeah, I'm on social media. You guys will find me, inshallah. Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah. Barakallah feek, bro. Jazakallah khair for your time. And guys, inshallah, you found as much value as I did in this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. I know we've been away for a long time and we're back now. But this is only a special episode for brother Mounir. And I'll see you guys very soon. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanak ya Rabbi bihamdik. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you on the next episode. I've been Osama.
Assalamu alaikum.